let's get into the coach's corner. What you got for us, Coach?
Man, there is a refinance rebound that we're looking at. Not so much because there's, the rates are so great, but here's the reality. Barry Habib, who is one of the leading voices in all of finances, so I was on a call with him 2 weeks ago, and he was talking about, and he showed us some charts, some graphs, and things like that. Yes, people that purchased a home in 2020, 2001, got an interest rate 2%, 3%, maybe 4%. It just depends on when they did it. Are the rates at in the mid sixes, sometimes high sixes, close to 7? Yeah. But what's happened since 2020, I think it's after January 2022, credit card balances spiked, right? Your average credit card interest rate is somewhere around 20%. People, if you look at any credit card, your average interest rate / APR is somewhere around the 20% range. People, while we were sitting at home, like during COVID, they got refinanced or they bought a home. We talked about it the last couple of weeks, interest rate real low. But then, I got a cheaper mortgage payment, but now I got these credit cards. And over time, credit card debt has spiked 22% in the last 2 years, year and a half. So where the refinance comes in, and people say, well, I don't want to refinance because I don't want to lose this great interest rate. Okay, fine. You look at that, but then you look at how much you're spending in credit card debt. Maybe you went and bought a vehicle. Maybe you went and did some other things. And the total output is so high. What else has gone up over the last 2 years?
Inflation.
Well, inflation, not only that, but the housing values. So what you bought your house for, the value's up here. You have this house, the balance has gone down. You've increased this credit card debt. What can you squeeze in that space between your loan amount and your value? You can squeeze this credit card debt. You can squeeze this car payment in, right? And now you take that 15% or 10% or whatever the rate is on that vehicle, the 20% on the credit card, and you roll it in. Now, here's the trick. The trick is you have to be disciplined to not run your credit cards back up. You have to be disciplined to not go
close them out.
Any additional debt, right? Like, sometimes closing it can help. Sometimes it does hurt your credit score. But the reality is, with the value that you have in your house, if you are a homeowner, you can actually refinance, and you will lose the 3% you got. But your overall expenses per month, if it makes sense, do it, because you can save money by doing that.
So for the people in the cheap seats, us in the cheap seats, you're saying we ain't talked to y'all in the cheap seats in a second.
Yeah, because y'all been moving up to the stage a
like
little
the
bit.
middle area. All right, but for the rest of us that's like stay in the cheap seat.
If you were in Constitution Hall, you wouldn't be at the top or all the way in the back. You'd be like in the back down on the floor now.
Okay. For the rest of us that's still up in the cheap seats, you're saying if I'm locked into a 2-point-something, a sub 3% interest rate on my house, and I got a bunch of credit cards, 3 or 4 credit cards, all of them 15, 20% interest, and now interest rates are like 6-something. So you're saying that it would make sense if I have equity in my property to refi, pull the equity out, and pay those credit cards down?
It is worth looking at. It is worth looking at. I'm not saying to execute it. If it doesn't make sense, don't do it. You've heard me say that a bunch of times.
Because my mortgage payment's going to go up, but essentially, I guess you're rolling all those credit cards.
But the total amount that you spend per month goes down.
Oh.
If that's the case, it might be worth looking at. Because in a year and a half, 2 years, or whatever, rates will come back down. You refinance that. Preferably, you don't have any, credit card jacked up again.
Right. Ideally.
And if that doesn't work, let's say the refinance doesn't make sense, but you still have the equity. You can also look at doing a home equity line of credit, which is a separate loan. It functions almost like a credit card, but you have a limit, and you can, inside of that, they give you $50,000 and you have a limit, and you need $25,000 to move this credit card debt over. Then you do it, and you only pay your first mortgage, which is at 3% or whatever, and you only pay the payment that's based upon the balance that you've accrued on the equity line.
Now, here's the thing I will say real quickly about people who own houses who want to refi. Once you refi, remember, you basically selling your house. Yeah, basically, it's the same thing.
Tell me about it.
If you pull out your equity early, you can't get it again when you try to sell it again. So if you do your refi early, you pull that equity out. When you go to try to sell it again, you're not going to get as much as you think you're going to. You may even break even. So that's something to consider when we're talking about refis. You're getting your money early. So you can't. Most of the time, the market's not moving that fast. You can refi and then sell it 3 or 4 years later and expect that you're going to get all this money. It usually doesn't work that way. I've not seen it work that way typically.
And again, you got to have the right team around you to give you the real facts, to make sure that you look at it side by side and say, hey, keeping what I got makes more sense, or doing something different makes some sense.